Hi everybody, so I'm going to take a bit of a break today from the MX-5 engine conversion on the MGB. I came up to see my good friend Joshua Bowles this week for a little bit of aluminium welding. While I were up here I thought this project that he's working on at the moment, it needs to be shared with the world. It's too good to be caught up in this barn without anybody seeing what's going on. Unfortunately we won't be able to drive it today, but I've seen the pace that this man works at, and I maybe give you 2 to 3 weeks and it'll be on the road doing donuts.
I don't know about 2 or 3 weeks.
It was a nice cold morning, but as I walked down onto the farm, I could hear the buzz gun coming from the coal shed. As I walked inside, I found Josh in his natural habitat underneath a Ford.
Mark, how are we?
I'm alright, pal, how are you?
How's it going?
What are you working on today?
Gearbox mount this morning.
Is this one of your own creations?
It's for last week's job, so I've had it painted. That's final piece under here, I think.
It's tidy work, that. Nicely done. So, Joshua Bowles, do you want to just give us a bit of intro about the car?
So, it's a 1958 Ford Anglia 100E, so right. Previous to 105. I've owned it about 2 years. My dad owned it previously for 3 years, let's say, before COVID. He then bought another 100E. It's a car that it's been local for a long time. We know that it's a good car. So it come up for sale. He chose to buy that. I chose to buy this off him.
You've done an engine swap on this one, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. But your that's got a Pinto engine swap.
Yeah, so that's got a Pinto 5-speed gearbox, Type 9 LSD.
Was that originally his plan for this car as well? Then was he going to do that? Sort of
he originally bought a V6
right.
S6 because he's had a few 100Es than my dad. About 6 or 7 years ago, he had a black one with a S6 V6. But it shouldn't have been on the road. It were a bad one. But my dad's had the Pinto in, so it were easy to a bit of a measure up. You
seen how it's been done.
Yeah, how bulkhead were done sort of thing. And just make it a bit better more than all else.
And I was just going to say that, so I know you're the kind of guy that you can look at something and pull a bit of inspiration from it, but you're never going to copy it.
I don't want to copy it, yeah.
You'll always put your own flair on it, yeah.
Because it is a common swap.
Yeah.
You can get some bits for them. You know, like all cross members, old Ford Autos, which is very good kit. You know, it went straight on, perfect.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that I've bought for front, just because I wanted all geometry to be right, you know.
Yeah.
And it is a lot like Escort stuff, so hopefully it will drive like my Escort.
Yeah, and that's the important thing with a car like this, is what a lot of people don't realise. Up to the sort of 70s and 80s cars, you can get away with driving them in modern traffic.
Yeah.
But once you get a little bit older than that, I mean, did you drive it with a stock engine?
My dad did. Yeah, right. My dad drove it for a good year or so, fully standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3-speed. I drove it back from York, where we got it from. I think there were an ignition issue outside my dad's house, and then that was the last time it run. I trailered it here. It got stripped.
The day your dad stopped driving this local, traffic eased in the local area. Right? I think old cars get a lot of bad rep, just purely on the fact that they were made for an era where we weren't sat still for
this is it, innit?
Every set of traffic lights is a queue.
Twice as much traffic about. It becomes dangerous.
Yeah, of course it does, yeah. People are less likely to use them then, and then they take them out once or twice a year. And I always use the analogy, if you got out of bed once or twice a year, do you think you'd be able to run without
it's not going to be good, is it? Yeah.
Because of that, they break down. People don't
want to use them.
Yeah, that's it.
Fall out with it.
That's it, yeah. So I think as much as people can sometimes get a bit snooty about an engine swap, what you're doing is actually making this car more usable, which means more people can enjoy it.
Bringing it up to date more than else.
Exactly, yeah. And there's tasteful ways to do it as well. I mean, probably not the guy to talk to about that, because you've got a Ford Escort which has got a Vauxhall engine in.
Bit of an upset,
yeah.
So that's a C20XE, Type 9, ATB diff. Yeah, it's alright, it's a bit of kit.
Yeah.
But like I say, that were again just how I wanted to do it more than what else.
Yeah.
We'd messed about with Vauxhall engines up here a bit in Novas and stuff. And they're a good engine.
And you become familiar with that engine, right?
Yeah.
But as much as that could upset the purists, what you've got here is an older Ford with a more up-to-date engine that just makes it a bit more usable, but also from a Ford as well.
Yeah. It is a common swap for them. Yeah. But it obviously works, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to go too mad with it. You know, they're a little car. Well, I say little, they're on the same wheelbase as an Escort, apart from 2-inch narrow all the way around.
It's deceiving because these, I've always thought they look like a small car, but you were saying when you're inside it, it feels small width-wise.
Yeah, width, but you're really tall. You've got loads of headspace.
Right.
You know, it's deceiving, really.
Yeah.
Especially with smaller seats, because the seats are small, you know.
You get comfortable with your passengers.
Yeah, shoulder rubbing, let's say,
Yeah, all right when you're with a missus.
Yeah.
Talk us through the engine then.
Yeah, so Pinto 205 block. Got this off the guy who my dad bought his 100 now off.
Right, okay.
Just in with deal, you know.
Happened to be a spare engine or something.
Guy was building a Mark II Escort 2-door. He'd had it rebuilt. It's got oversized pistons, head's been messed about with. He decided to go ST170. We didn't have anything to put it in, but when there's a cheap engine, you buy it, don't you?
Yeah,
so,
that's it. A lot of people that have the old engines like this, and we all have that theory that if you've got a spare engine, it makes your current one invincible, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know when you're going to get another one, and especially a known good one.
Yeah, good one, or at right money as well. This time I've gone with fuel injection.
Right, okay, yeah. These bodies then that you've got here, these look like carburetors, and they're styled sort of around the Weber side drafts then.
I think that it changes a lot with them being silver.
Yes.
You know, compared to like on my Escort, I've got Omex bodies, they're black. They sort of settle in a bit like more silver.
Yeah, I agree, yeah. It's got that classic, and the Webers were always silver as well, weren't they? So, not bare aluminium. Yeah. The Webers were always bare aluminium.
The kit itself off is a mate of ours off Mark II Mania is called.
Right, okay.
They're ST170 injectors.
I always like it when people use things like this. Not only does it keep it Ford again, but it means that if you're using a standard ST170 injector, you can go into GSF or Euro car parts and buy one off the shelf.
It just makes it a lot easier.
The crank sensor then, what's that from?
It's a kit off BHP Performance. It comes as one, to be fair. Trigger wheel and crank sensor.
And the distributor blanking plate?
You can modify it dizzy, but it's a pretty important part to me. Is that it runs oil pump, so it's got the gear on bottom, you know, bearing housing. It's nice. As
much as I'm familiar with Pintos, I didn't spot straight away that the distributor were missing because it's got a nice finished cap in there.
That's
whereas if it had just been hacked off or...
Yeah, it's simple but effective for me.
Engine internals then, any modifications to the camshaft, crankshaft, pistons?
Yeah, so it's got a Piper cam in. I'm not sure, but I'll find out on settings. It's got +1 oversized pistons. And yeah, just a RS2000 baffled sump. So I chose to go with a left-hand drive sump. Just to keep everything on this side more than else. Everything's pretty tight down there with crossmember.
If you can give yourself a little bit of room to get in and work,
that's it. It's just more for space or more than else. So it starters on this side and then your wings on that side then. For you know, just for space, because obviously...
And you've got your exhaust coming down the other side as well.
The big one for the 100 is the exhaust,
Yeah. I think generally all the cars as a whole, because I don't know what your experience is, but I've always found that the exhausts tend to hang quite low to the ground. And as soon as you start to run at a ride height that we sort of like, you end up in, you know, clipping speed bumps and...
Yeah, that's the thing, they've got to be drivable. Yeah. You know, no matter what we do, we've got to be able to drive them.
Touching back as well, when I actually walked in here, you work in an environment, and you can probably see now on the camera, like every time we breathe, there's, you know, plenty of condensation coming out.
We're not scared.
No, that's it. And we talk about working on being able to work on these things. We're not in a heated garage at the moment, are we?
No heated, no electric. Yeah. It's an old coal barn.
There's no door on it.
No
so
door.
You're open to the elements. And I think that sort of thing, you know, it helps inspire me sometimes. I'm usually on the driveway or in a colder garage, and it's good for other people to see that you can go outside. And once you start moving, generally, you warm up a bit, don't you?
You're all right, yeah. As long as you're not actually wet, you're all right. I mean, there's a few leaks, but yeah, dodge them.
Yeah, we make do, don't we? We make do, and it's good to see that sort of thing. And I think it definitely inspires me, but I think it inspires other people. And you might be outside working on your car, and you realise that you're not alone.
The thing is, there's people all over. I mean, I follow people on Instagram that you don't really see the cars out and about, but the stuff that they do to them, you know, you won't think that people are out there doing it.
social media is such a powerful platform for that. It is a good way to keep people up to date with what you're doing.
It's like forums back in the day.
Exactly that, yeah.
I used to have a lot of Mark 1, Mark 2 Fiestas.
Yeah.
And you'd be all at forums finding out which way to do like a 1600 cross-flow conversion,
Do we need to explain what a forum is for the newer viewers?
Maybe, yeah.
My experience of the classic car community is generally people are out to try and help each other.
Yeah, I think, especially with a lot of local lads around here, you try and help each other out as best as you can, parts, welding, it's one of them.
That's how I know you, Josh, through a mutual friend of ours, Ryan Dixon.
Yeah.
And I can't think what I might have needed help with, but you're alley welder?
Yeah, by trade, I'm fabrication welder, aluminium, stainless.
Yeah,
I'll try out really. Yeah, we'll glue out together. My dad obviously my dad's been into cars all my life. Good group of lads from King Street, all into cars, been around cars. But work mainly, we got quiet at some point. I went into fabrication just to help out. A mate of mine, Jake, he worked in there at Pine at the time. And just sort of picked it up from there, but it instantly bleeds into this. You're not having to pay somebody else to do it then. Or you're willing to have a go more than anything else.
Yeah.
Because not many people just cut an old car up. Especially when you've paid a lot of money for it. It seems this one more than anything else for me.
The paint's good.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. My Escort I imported my Escort from Italy, and when it turned up, it were a good car. It's a very good shell. But it had had some very bad previous repairs, So I wasn't too fussed about cutting it to bits.
You do say that though, and as much as I'm like you, where I don't like if good paint for thee and me might be different to what the people that are driving modern cars perhaps would class as good. But you talk about not being as worried about cutting the Escort up, but then it might not have been as good paint, but it's a more expensive vehicle as well.
Yeah, that's at the time maybe not. Now, maybe so, but
I think that kind of leads nicely into then the engine bay modifications that you've done to this. Unless you knew these cars, you might not look at that and think it's been modified. It's from this point here then, this entire section.
Yeah, so it'd be flat along here. So
right.
they normally take it like 4-inch, maybe I've done maybe 5-inch.
Okay.
And then it's just a bit wider, and then made my own gearbox tunnel.
Done a brilliant job with that though. It all looks factory, and then of
cheers.
course you've kept the paint the same colour in the bay, just so it does tie in with that sort of factory feel then.
Cheers to Mellors Auto Works for that. He did under my Escort, under here, rear arch, so my car also does a good job. He's a good mate of mine as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll get him on Instagram, Mellors Auto Works.
So I noticed there's a couple of little bits left to do under the bonnet. The big one that's missing looks like the radiator. Is that going to be uprated as well? Yeah,
so that's just a normal standard uprated Escort alloy big header tank. The only reason I haven't fit it is just for the simple fact of easier to work on in engine bay more than else.
And then the other big one that's yeah,
so the next big job will be the exhaust, which I'm going to make myself, but it gets very tight once you get down near steering column and starter motor and stuff. I'm going to do a 4-into-1. So obviously it'd be like 2.5 inches down there, which, as you'll see, it's very tight.
Excited to see what you come up with for that sort
we'll
of thing.
Try and make it look fancy more than what else. Yeah.
Gearbox, standard Type 9?
Yeah, standard Type 9.
Everybody knows that we don't need to do anything to those.
Nah, they just put them in, break and put another one in.
Solid, that's it. Then to the back end of the car. And so rear axle, you've done quite a chunk of modifications to that.
I wanted it to drive like the Escort more than anything else. Yeah, same tramp bars. It's got 105E axle, so it's just the narrow axle that you can get. 4-1 diff in it. Eventually I probably will put a slipper in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now, I think that it'll be more than heavy duty enough, for what we need. And
the tramp bars then, so that's that's your own device?
Yeah, I just copied the design off the Escort more than anything else.
Right, okay. If you know it works, why?
Yeah, I bought a kit, but I think 90% of it went in bin. I think the only thing I used out of it was rose joints.
Part of being into cars like this and working on cars like this yourself is buying a kit and then just cutting it straight up.
Yeah, I must have spent an hour trying each and every other way that it could have gone, and it didn't go. So it got cut up, and then cut my own brackets out for for axle, sorry, and then it's just mounted to inner side at chassis leg, as you'll see. But
Still on the leaf springs with the...
so standard leaf springs.
Yep.
Which I do think you can. I found out over there. I was seeing that somebody had used Mark 1 Cortina leaf springs, which I'm going to have a look into.
Right.
So they're single leaf, you see.
Lighter.
So you'll lose a couple of leaves as well, a bit lower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. Nice little touch on rear axle was I extended the saddles to do with the lowering blocks. I've welded a section onto the bottom of the axle that is exactly width of the leaf spring.
Yeah.
So when you put your bolts down, it cannot move.
Yeah.
So
better axle location, less components.
Yeah, less components, no rubber, no silly blocking way that's going to spin. You know. And then moved on to gas dampeners on back. Right. I think they're the only people that do a kit for these. Moving on to front, I've got gas inserts in the because it's all Escort front end as well, really. Old Ford Autos again, which do with a kit. They modify the anti-roll bar and then modify the cross member to take a Escort cross member. So obviously then you can use Pinto engine mounts. You know, they just bolt straight on. Works
well for you as well, because if you need to keep a spare of anything, you've got another car, you can pull them off. And and you're familiar with the Escorts as well, aren't you? So, moving on from suspension then, every time I've come up to look at this car in the last few years, it could be a week apart, sometimes it can be a month apart, but no matter when I come up here, there's always a different set of wheels on it.
Yeah, you'll see there's a few different wheels, It's same with my Escort, and I don't mind change. So, and then we've got a few about to change. So,
have you sort of edging towards one at the moment, or do you think
I quite like these Alicat? Obviously off you, job for job.
Yeah, or a swap for something welding. I can't think what.
But the common wheel for these is a banded steel, so they do look well on banded steels. My dad's is on banded steels.
They look great. But you realise how heavy they are when you pull them off as well.
That as well, and again, I don't want to be the same as everybody else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we're not building the same car twice, are we? It's nice too. So
have a bit of a change. A big thing with 100Es, which I don't really like, is the front wheels always sit a bit further out than the rear.
If you're following a car that's got a wider track at the front, it always looks like it's going sideways.
Yeah, it
down
looks
the
like
road.
It's crabbing, or they look like a British bulldog. You know, it just don't look right to me. That.
I'm the same. I don't, because the amount of times where I'll look on one side and I'll move over to see the other side, to make sure it's not crabbing. Yeah.
But no, I'm going to try and get away from that. As much as we drive them, we still like them to look good.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's that fine balance of both, isn't it? Yeah. We're not building fast cars that don't look good.
All the real modifications in here are just at fuel tank, mainly, more than anything else. Obviously, with ITBs, then they'll need a return, you know. So I've welded a fitting into the bottom, fitting into the side, and we'll just run a pipe up to there then. Batteries relocated into the boot, a bit more tidier under the bay, more than anything else. Again, with theme of we like to use them, plenty of sound editing. I do it in most of them. I've done it in my Escort, I did it in this, and just for the simple fact of it takes that bit of rattle out, it takes that extra bit of echo out as well, you know. Gearbox tunnel, that's sort of a big thing in here. Bit of a thank you to Andrew Donner at work. He spent a weekend getting it in there, to making it look so it's pretty factory, like to say.
I think it's an absolutely brilliant touch for that. It's the one thing that jumps out at me is when you open the door, that tunnel looks like it's original, being there in the same colour as the car. And
yeah, that were a big thing, keeping it same colour. I'm going to cut carpet round it so you'll see it as well. I think that's the thing with some stuff. It's hidden away and it's a lot of the hard work that's there. Escort steering column, just again keeping it simple, knowing that it works. I'm guessing it's been retrimmed, but it's been done to a very good quality. Headlining's absolutely mint, so I wanted to keep it all pretty much as is. I think the only thing that I might have to do is lower seats a little bit. And then, they're going to get mounted a bit further back than what the wallets. But no, apart from that, it'll stay pretty stock in here. It's quite a nice place to be inside here.
So part of driving an old car like this for me is the way that it makes you feel, and you get in it and it transports you to a different era. You just feel good driving it, don't you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's why that's the main reason why we've got them, innit? Once you get out in them, it's a bit of a getaway, innit?
Yeah, you don't need to be messing with it and modernising it inside. Thank you so much for just giving us a little bit of a walk around and insight into what you've been working on then with this.
No, anytime, Mike. Like I say, it's ongoing. I'm sure you'll be back. We'll have to do another video when it's going, let's say.
I'm looking forward to getting out for a spin, yeah. So I think it'll be a couple of months maybe, realistic.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I've entered it into a couple of shows now, so I'm going to have to get my finger out a bit. Moving pretty quick. You know, it is all the little bits that take time.
It's like an iceberg. They say that there's that 10% at the top and the 90% at the
under,
bottom.
Yeah.
But that 90% at the bottom you've done now. It's the bit on the top.
Yeah, it's all the little, tiny little bits. No, yeah, thanks to anybody who comes and gives me a hand more than what else. I like to be down here, and on a weekend, it's anybody who turns up. There's always somebody here normally giving me a hand, so...
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll ask more than what else. For all the hassle that she deals with, all the headache, listening to me.
Yeah, looking at your son, the little video that you put on Instagram the other day, I think he's going to find cars like this very interesting.
Yeah, loves it. Yeah, interesting is definitely his thing, mate.
This is interesting.
No, it is. I've got it off my dad. He's going to get it off me, so
yeah,
that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Until next time.
No, anytime, mate.